So, what if the pressure does win? What if the pressure knocks you so far down that you can't see a way back and your purpose has to change? That's not what this show is about, is it? Well, it's not always as easy as just overcoming a hurdle. Sometimes it's hard, and what you do next defines you. We're going to talk about that next. Bill Ludwig is next on Purpose Under Pressure. The heat is on. Let's get cooking. This is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about people like you and me. We're business folk. We're leaders in the community. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to live up to what we're here for. And we wake up in the morning, we get after it. What happens invariably is something tries to knock us down. The pressures rise, the forces that don't want what we're trying to do to take over and get things done stand in our way. And this podcast is all about what good people like us, like who we're trying to be, do to fight back and not let us take a shortcut or a different path, but to steer forward, get it done, and to win. That's called Purpose Under Pressure, and that's what this show is all about. So thank you for joining it. If you're back and you've heard this show or seen it before, do me a favor and give us a thumbs up somewhere. Let someone know the show's worth looking at and watching and engaging with. You can follow it. You can subscribe it. You can tell your mom, I don't care, but don't keep it to yourself. If you tell others, then they'll tell others, and that's how we can make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do here. Purpose Under Pressure is brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group, serving sales professionals nationwide from their Akron and Columbus, Ohio locations. They're also in Jacksonville, Florida. They're also now in upstate capital region of New York. I like to talk about, though I don't think they like me to talk about, out of all the Sandler organizations, they're number 2. And now I usually say, if you're not first, you're last. I think that was from a Will Ferrell movie, but number 2, that's pretty doggone good. They are good at what they do, and they've earned that designation. They provide sales training and business growth and revenue development for businesses of all sizes, but they do it in a way that you're going to be proud of when your salespeople represent you the way they do, the way they're trained to do through Sandler by the Ruby Group. It's the right way. It's on purpose, and it's real, and it's not a strategy. It's not a tactic. It's just real, honest to goodness people helping other people with solutions. And that's what sales is. So if you're interested in that kind of an approach for your business, look them up online, therubygroup.sandler.com, and you'll be glad that you did. I'm really excited about the show today because our guest is not just someone who's getting it done in the world, but he's a really, really, really good friend of mine. He's a valued friend, and he's a pastor at my church. And this is not going to be a religious conversation, although it will be, but it's not meant to be. But that's just who he is. It's who I am, and I know it's going to come out. But I'm excited for you to meet Bill Ludwig. He's the senior pastor at Five Stones Community Church. He's also a serial entrepreneur, and I don't even know all the things he does. He does a lot of things, and I'm not even sure why, because he's a great pastor, but he's got his fingers in a lot, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit and kind of learn why and what drives him to that. So the company that he has that does all of those things is called Confluence. It's a multi-vocational approach for him, and he helps other people with this kind of an approach as well. We're going to talk about all of those things with my friend Bill Ludwig. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be here. You're talking about my favorite stuff already, so I'm excited.
Well, I know how busy you are. I'm surprised you were able to pencil me in. I appreciate your sticking to your agenda. That's positive right off the bat.
Well, I mean the cash incentive that you promised me is it's always a draw.
Checks in the mail, Bill. Checks in the mail. You got it. So I understand. I want to know all about all the things you're doing, but I'm very interested in why. And I don't even know if I've ever asked you this before in all of our conversations. But Bill, what is your purpose? Why are you here on this earth? You've done a lot of things, and I bet it's all around that one thing, and I can't wait to hear your answer. Why are you here, Bill?
Well, I found out maybe 12 or 15 years ago when I was doing kind of a look back over my life and career thus far that my purpose on this planet is essentially to help people figure out who they are and to help them reach their potential. And I've done that any number of ways from any number of sectors in the economy. And certainly, as you mentioned earlier, from the leadership of a local church. I think what is behind that mostly is a ravenous curiosity for like all things. And so all things, all people, and that has led me to have just so many diverse experiences in terms of part-time jobs, summer jobs, helping out a friend with this, and I end up learning a bunch about whatever it is we're doing. And then somehow down the road, that ends up becoming a part of how I'm helping someone later in terms of their pursuit, moving them towards their potential. That's the short.
So some
That's a short
people
answer.
that that's the short answer. We're going to get it. How many different like jobs have you, like if you had to count all of the jobs that you've done, the ways that you've helped people, they're not even all official, right? Like you've been down in the dirt with people getting things done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was fortunate to grow up in a time and a place in America where um, there was just endless opportunity to explore, and so I've done
Mm.
everything from literally every construction trade you can think of to mountain guiding and whitewater raft guiding, um, farming. I've been a consultant for corporations, HR consultant in terms of helping develop people, develop teams within a company or an organization. And, just along the way, I keep having, I've been a heavy equipment operator,
Yeah.
like you do, just, on accident. I
Yeah.
happened to know somebody that invited me to hop up into a machine, and then I knew how to do it. And you would be surprised, even in my day job as pastor, I have had the opportunity to use that multiple times through the years, just that skill that I picked up.
And is that driven, it's a personal question, is that driven by money? Is it driven by a desire to help people to learn new things? What drives you to, because you're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Why?
It's definitely not money. I've, we can joke around about that. And obviously, everyone needs a certain amount of cash
Mhm.
to fund their lifestyle. I'm just, like I said before, I'm just really curious about anything and everything. I read a lot. I try to do things. I once I wanted to learn how to butcher a pig. I know that's gruesome to talk about on a podcast, but
Not if you like bacon,
well,
it's not.
totally right. And so I met a farmer at the corner of a bar. We were both having a beer, and we started talking. And I heard he had a farm, and I said, "Hey, I want to learn how to do this. Do you have any work on your farm that requires, somebody without much brain, but at that time a good back? I can shovel. I can run. I can work with horses. I can work with cattle." I'll come work for you for free if you'll teach me how to do this. And over the course of about a month or so, I learned how to butcher a pig, and was able to teach my son the same, and just things like that. I got to spend time with somebody that I just met and that I found fascinating, and got to spend play in their world. Now they're close friends of mine. You can't
Yeah.
engage in that work without getting close to somebody, and so yeah, I think it's more like a curiosity, and um, you know, my whole life I've kind of just wanted to help people move towards something better, and I've learned that the best way to describe that is toward their potential. I want to see people live as big a life as they can.
Yeah. And you call what a little bit of what you do multi-vocational leadership. This is actually a thing. I had not heard that term. And you're teaching it at conferences and wherever you can talk to people about this thing that you've done. Devil's advocate position on this is if my kid had 12 different jobs over the last 3 years, I'd say, come on, drifter, get yourself together. Right. And you're like, my kid can't find himself, or
Right.
whatever it might
Right.
be. It could be a detriment. Some people might say, why can't I hold down a job?
Sure. Sure. Well,
It actually sounds boring to me now. I think you might you might be onto
Well,
something.
and that's really just the thing. I mean, the main vehicle that I help people move towards their potential is the role that I play in our local congregation, where I get to meet with
Hmm.
people literally all day, every day. Um, we our church is into all kinds of interesting shifts and movements, and learning things and trying to do different things. We're always experimenting, and so that's my day job. And so
Yeah,
everything else is it branches off of that. And if it doesn't serve my day job, I tend not to do it. So I would say that all of the streams of income that I have, um, they're synergistic. They work together with my role in our local for my local congregation. For example, I sell eggs. I raise chickens and sell eggs, and I find myself at least once a week in several of the kitchens of the restaurants here in our city. And when you're doing that once a week, twice a week, you end up making friends with the cooks and the managers and the servers, and then before long, you're one of their favorite people, hopefully, and they're stopping to tell you about stuff going on in their life, and you find yourself in a position where you can help somebody. And I think that a lot of people in a role like mine have a hard time getting out into the world and meeting new people and finding themselves in diverse situations. But my other vocational interests lead me to people. They lead me to the midst of people, to hosting parties, to I've catered some weddings, believe it or not. Like I'm more than likely going to say yes if it leads me toward people and to a deeper kind of relationship with them.
And is that what you, very quickly, is that what you talk about in these seminars or conferences when you're talking about multi-vocational, talking about different ways that people haven't thought of to get in front of and speak to? What's the purpose for some of those speaking engagements?
Yeah. Well, so I know we're not making this about religion, but there's a huge there's a huge problem in America and the American church, regardless of the faith family or faith tradition, where people that are going into ministry don't last. Like 85% of them are out before their fifth year in ministry. So people like me, this is year 31 for me, right? And I've made it this far through some pretty catastrophic things that I would say were good reason to like hit the eject button and go do something else. But I've stayed. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that I go and talk to groups of people is to help other people in roles like mine learn how to thrive as human beings. So as a human being, I talk to them about being human beings first, and how as a healthy human being, how that helps people navigate whatever role they're in, whether it's a clergy role or when I'm talking with business leaders. How are you a person first and a business leader maybe third or fourth down the list, right? Like let's put things in the proper places. And so when I tell them about being, some people use the term co-vocational, like a thing I do along with my pastor job or my day job. But for me, mm-hmm. And I think for many people in sort of like the millennial generation and younger, we're finding that it's good to have a day job, but it doesn't quite cut it when it comes to appetites for curiosity. When it comes to maybe financially, for some people, they need to have a little something. And what I tell people is, mm-hmm. that's fine. Make sure it's something that kicks back into your why, into your purpose, into the thing that you do. And if you could find a way to weave all of that together, you're living a pretty darn good life.
Yeah, I love that. And you're pretty good about reminding people that no matter what your job is, as long as it's something that allows you to be you and to do the things you're trying to do and to impact the kingdom the way you're meant to do it, then it's a great job. I don't care. And you've used the term, whether you're a salesperson or doing social media ads or picking up garbage or whatever it might be, you're doing the work you're meant to be. And you can, there's a lot of different ways to do that. So we've spent a little bit of time talking about your purpose, and I didn't want to discount that because it's wide and it's deep and it's strong, and I know how strong it is. But I want to get to the pressure, because your purpose involves getting in front of and helping other people be the best they can be. Your pressure is keeping you from that, or at least has tried. Yeah. And I want to, if it's okay with you, to kind of tell me about that a little bit, tell our listeners and viewers about that, because it's a stirring story. And the other side of it, I will tell you right now, I'm as proud of you as anybody that has ever walked this planet. Wow. So let's talk about that story and the things that you've overcome.
Yeah, sure. So in the early fall of 2022, I was driving home from a doctor's appointment of all things, and was struck from behind by a semi. So rear-ended me, threw me into oncoming traffic, got hit a couple more times. Was able to crawl out of my car with the help of the bystanders nearby, but suffered some pretty good brain injury, spine, both cervical and lumbar, and just tons of other soft tissue injuries that prevented me from from being very comfortable when I was conscious. Let's put it that way. But they
Yeah,
did,
that's an
but
understatement.
they did require me to be not at work. So right after the accident, I missed 4.5 months of work straight, and it's hard. It's hard when you're caring for. This is 2022, so this is like on the waning of the pandemic. So we're anyone that's been leading a business or an organization, the pandemic is that's a mark on the timeline where you had
Hmm.
before the pandemic and after the pandemic. So we
Yeah.
survived the pandemic, and then we're trying to regain momentum, which is always people, right? That's our product. People thriving, people moving towards their potential. That's our product, so to speak. And to be incapacitated. The fall in our church, we're in a college town. The fall is always like Super Bowl. It's the playoffs and Super Bowl, right? Like the college students are coming back, the professors, the everything. The lights turn on here in the fall, and I couldn't participate in any of it. I couldn't. I wasn't even calling in, right? Because my brain injury was pretty rough. Couldn't couldn't see to read. Um, couldn't walk without stumbling. Lost the use of my left arm at one point. Just memory issues. Just all of those things that you think of when you think of a catastrophic, motor vehicle accident. And about a year after that, so I had about 4.5 months off, and about a year later, ended up having a massive uh, spinal surgery in my cervical spine, which took me out for another 3 months, right? And all of these things, both the accident and the injuries, and then the surgery and the recovery, and all of the pharmaceuticals I was on, just served to um, rob my energy and my memory and my creativity, and I'll be honest, like quite a bit of my drive for a while.
Your drive. In other words, were you starting to let the pressure beat the purpose? Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm typically.
What's that feel
Oh, it's
like?
awful.
What's that
It's
feel
awful,
like?
right? Your listeners.
Because everybody on this show talks about overcoming it. I'm about to hear what it's like to give in.
Yeah, I mean, your listeners don't know that I've often been referred to as the human exclamation point, but I'm a pretty upbeat guy, joyful
Yes,
guy,
you are.
energetic guy. Always been really hard to get me down. And there were more than a couple of points where I didn't think I was gonna heal, where it was taking so long. I didn't think I was gonna be able to come back to work, and then I came back to work, and it was all too much for me. And then having surgery, it was just there were a couple of moments where I was pretty well over being injured or being in pain, still in pain, still in recovery. But I will say that it felt like I was losing my identity. I was losing myself when my drive was gone. When I was sort of second guessing whether any treatment or therapy was ever going to help me, and instead of always like looking into the future towards how much better it's going to be than now, I started to kind of lose hope. Um, that life could either get back to the way it was, or that life could even be good again.
And so, what did you do during that moment? Because there are times, and you see it in the news, you see life changing things. You see someone's house burned down. I know you spent time uh, out in California when the whole town, I can't
Yeah,
remember the name of the
paradise.
town,
Yeah, yeah.
Paradise. burnt to the ground, and you were there when their lives will not be the
Right.
same. So you were at a moment where, and you've seen that in many, many places around the world where you've served and you've helped people. You were at a moment where you didn't think it would be the same. Maybe it wouldn't have been. How do you help people understand what you go through when you actually have to give
Yeah.
up and start over? You must have thought about that.
Well, and in a I think in a very real way, I did give up and start over. Um,
Mm,
and I'll say this, just to maybe give a map for the conversation. I think my life is better now than it was before. Even though I have physical limitations, I still have quite a bit of pain from my injuries. But boy, is my life better now. I am way further down the road with some of the folks I've been working with for a while in terms of helping them find their why and helping them move towards their potential. And I'm just going to say it, like life is better. I have a level of contentment now that
mm,
I'm not altogether sure I ever imagined like there could be life like this in terms of contentment. Like, oh, all right, yeah, okay, I have limitations, but I can still do this and I can still do that. Like, the whole saying, and it's usually used in a negative way. If all you see are nails, you're going to be a hammer, or you know what I mean. Like,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
for me, it's been really freeing to realize that being myself, which now includes asking for help, which now includes giving as much of myself away as I have to give away, that's a way better way to go than maybe what I even thought before. And so life is good. So how did all that happen? I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you, and it's not a mystery. It's not even. I don't even think it's something that's rare. There were people in my life that wouldn't let me go there. There are people in my life that wouldn't let me persist in hopelessness. There are people in my life that said, hey, like a month ago, you could walk from your door to the car, and that was as far as you can go. Today, you walked from the door to the mailbox, which is 3 times as far. How do you not see that you're making progress? And so there were people I barely even knew, calling out little bits of progress in my journey and my recovery. And they were things that either I couldn't see or that I discounted because they weren't enough. In my mind, they weren't enough. But I had and have a community of people around me that wouldn't let me go quietly into that good night, so to speak. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that there was any I can't say there was anything in me that made that happen except for the willingness to surrender. Surrender to the moment, surrender to the help, surrender to the encouragement. Like I couldn't be in control and have hope at the same time. And so maybe that's where this contentment comes in. Now I'm on the other side of surrender, and it's a lot better place to be.
Being able to let it be and to let that grow in. And I know there are horrible things that happen to people, but do you, and it's not even a question for you. I have to hope that in every bad thing, that there's a little bit of some of that. There's a seed of opportunity for growth, even in the worst things. And I don't want to even fathom the worst things.
Sure,
I don't put myself in those shoes,
sure,
but I wonder, do you think that's true? It was true for
yeah,
you, the worst thing,
yeah. Uh,
but man, I don't want to pretend that when someone, loses a child
right.
or a loved one or whatever, I don't want to pretend there's any good in that, but is there?
Looking at the typical salesperson, everything they do day in and day out, if we simplify all of that and really boil it down, they have 2 superpowers. First superpower that salespeople have is how they behave. Second superpower they have is what they say. As a seller, we only have 2 problems. We either said something or did something that we should not have said or done, or we didn't say something or do something that we should have said or done.
whatever. I don't want to pretend there's any good in that, but is there?
So here's what I've learned over the years in the role that I've played. You never lead with that. You never lead with, boy, there's something that's gonna be good, because it's
Yeah, you don't
it's
want to hear that.
insensitive. It's
It's insanity.
yeah,
Almost, I think, yeah.
exactly. Um,
It's wrong. Yeah,
but um,
yeah.
and I'll say not for everybody. I think sometimes people that isolate themselves, that retreat into sort of nothingness. I know that sounds dramatic. There are people that do that I don't know if they ever find anything good in their situation. But people that don't isolate, people that do have anything that calls them towards the light, anything, they tend to it may take a while, but they tend to find something, um, let's say, meaningful. They might not describe it as good. It may be bittersweet. It might be a gift that's given painfully, but it's meaningful, and it's something that they can do, almost like planting a seed, knowing that it's going to grow. They may not be around to enjoy the fruit of the tree, but they're planting that seed. And so I think there's something to that. If there's anybody, any time they have just a little sliver of light, a little sliver of, even if it's irritating, somebody continuously reminding them that that they're okay, they're going to be okay, and that life will have meaning again. I think that those folks, they get there. They get there. Those business owners that struggle, right? That like things outside their control seem to be throttling them, and I think this is where like an invitation to surrender is really good. It's not defeat. I think it takes a lot of strength to let go of something that isn't working, or let go of something even that is working, but it's not working for you. And I think there's meaning there for everybody to find through the hard stuff.
So you've been through the hard stuff, and you had people holding on, and you found a sliver of sunshine and something to push forward to. And so in that moment, you mentioned your purpose is helping others to accomplish the things that they're trying to do, to be the best person they were purposed to be. Is your drive, when you're at your low spot, is your drive your own glory, your own ability to serve those people, your own purpose, or is it for those who need you so that they can be the better people? What's that carrot on the stick that makes you get up out of the bed and do the work, the hard work you had to do?
Well, I'd love to say that I'm perfect in this, but I'm not, right? I think there's some days, and as I get further away from some of the dysfunction and the critical pain from the injuries, I think there's larger chunks of days where my drive is for others. But there's some moments, right? There's some moments where and I don't think that's all bad.
No, I don't think so either, Bill. I think you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help others.
Totally.
I don't think there's a right answer here. I'm just interested in
my answer,
what you were going through.
I just think that's the way it is. And there's some stuff that I do, with discipline, with regularity, that keep me kind of moving up and to the right, as it were, if I can. And there's stuff that I do that, with regularity and discipline, that help me accept where I am.
Yeah. And make the most out of where you are. And let's talk about that then. Moving forward, what's next for Bill Ludwig? What's the hurdles that's going to come? You can't anticipate another car accident, God forbid.
I don't want one.
Please no. But there's other things that are going to come along and try to knock you off, and maybe it's still part of the car accident. But what are you going to have to overcome in the future to live through your purpose?
Yeah. So I should have said this earlier too, but I think this is a key. I think when we find ourselves struggling, when we kind of are wandering close to that line of no hope, right? Or like the obstacles are so big, I just can't. I think a really, really valuable discipline is to get curious. Get curious. Get curious if it's an obstacle within yourself. Get curious about yourself. If it's an obstacle in the market, get curious about the market. If it's whatever it is, get curious because and I reference back to my insatiable curiosity about things. There's always something there. There's always something to hold your attention, something to bring you joy or pleasure. There's always something to explore in terms of the market, or if it's a business you're in and the business is dipping, you're facing some headwinds. Get curious because there's a reason. You don't always have to go in a straight line if you're sailing. Sometimes you can tack into the wind, and sometimes you have to. And so I think getting curious, and I almost said exploiting, but the word I want is exploring. What's next, or maybe not even like a wholesale shift, but how does my perspective need to shift, or my approach need to shift in order to sustain what it is that I'm doing.
And that curiosity helps people to find their purpose. You mentioned you didn't even quite realize yours until just a few years ago, but being constantly curious teaches us lessons, doesn't it? I'm 58 years old. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, and I'm not convinced I know what I'm all about yet.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen as long as I'm looking for it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not over till it's over. What do you tell people? And then we'll wrap this up because I'm interested in this. A lot of folks have bad days when their hairdryer doesn't turn on in the morning. They right? A lot of people have bad days when the wrong person gets elected. A lot of people have bad days when a semi truck roars out of them and knocks them into the other thing, right? How do we attack our bad days? Because there's a whole lot more good than we realize in those moments. That's what we've discussed in this show right now, is that there's a kernel of good there. How do we attack that and make it a great day, live up to our purpose?
Yeah. So number one rule in the wilderness, if you figure out you're lost, you stop and you stay right where you are. You stay right where you are. And I think that same thing goes when you're going through life, you're going through a day, you're going through a week, and it's tough. Like you said, for whatever reason, there's an obstacle. If you don't have a sense of peace about how to negotiate that moment, stop. Just stop. Call a timeout.
Interesting.
Look,
and yet we try to knock those doors down, don't we? We try to go, fix.
Yeah, listen, like if you're the owner of a business, if you call a timeout, no one's going to fire you.
They're going to thank you.
If you're a manager, and you have a good relationship with your employer, and you call a timeout, and they know why you're doing it, they're gonna go, wow, this person they're pretty far along in their development as a human being, that they know themselves well enough that they need to push pause, right? For the purpose of getting curious and figuring out what's going on. A lot of times we just make or find ways to stay busy, because in our culture, I think busyness equals success. And you could go a long way just being busy in a career. You can go a long way just being busy in a relationship, in whatever it looks like. But if you find yourself at a crossroads, if you find yourself at a moment where it doesn't look like you've not been this way before, you don't know where you are, and whatever the process is, just sit down. Sit down and have a conversation with yourself about how you got here. And okay, now that you're here, what do you want the next season to look like? The most powerful question ever in my life was when I was shifting careers about 8 or 9 years ago, from like a corporate spiritual guy to a local spiritual guy. My coach asked me, "What do you want the next season of your life to look like?" And I think for the first time, somebody gave me permission to not only think about what I want my life to look like, but actually to go and pursue it. And that question at first, it irritated me because I'd never thought that way before. But it unlocked so much for me in terms of how I wanted my days to look, how I want my time with my family to look, what I want the fruit of my efforts in my multi-vocational reality to look like. And man, if you can do that, if you can stop and have that conversation, get curious and have that conversation, there might be some rainy days, but there's very few hurricanes in a life like that.
That is a ton of wisdom right there wrapped up into that. And sometimes, Bill, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you're a pastor at my church. And so I don't always think of you as this wise business guy, but you really know what you're talking about. And I've had a lot of consultants that preach business success to businesses. And you might have a lot of them beat because you know what you're doing. Yeah. And I think that's good. Can you tell me a little bit about this business you've created? You've created many, but it's called Confluence. And does that tie into, if I ask people to reach out to you and figure out if they want to talk to you about things, is that through Confluence? Explain that to me.
So Confluence was a business I started about eight and a half years ago when I was switching careers. And I thought, I want the next season of my life to look like I own my own schedule. I'm home with my family. I get to do whatever I want to do, and no one's telling me what to do. And so I'm like, well, I'll start another company and I'll take off. Well, I had so many interests, and there were so many bits and pieces of income streams that I kind of had my fingers in, that I envisioned a watershed, which is a geological feature, like where rain falls on a mountain and then it rolls downhill. All these streams come together into a river. That's called a confluence. And so I was like, this is the thing that's going to tie my life together and make it all make sense. And, here's a funny thing. There's a nationally registered business that uses the name Confluence. So I had to add something to my name. And man, I was working with the state of Ohio trying to figure out what this name was going to be. And I was so frustrated.
They're real helpful.
So frustrated that, so I was like, well, what about Confluence LOL? I was just so sick of trying to find alphabets. And that wasn't good enough. And so the opposite.
That didn't work
The
either.
opposite of laughing out loud is chuckles to myself. I didn't know that before. But
is that a real thing?
So when I finally submitted to the Secretary of State Confluence CTM, chuckles to myself, it was accepted, and that's how my business was named.
Well done.
Yes, right. I kind of keep. When I first started it, it took about 4 months for it to get out of control, where I never advertised. I started at mid-October, and by March the following year, I was turning away business. I couldn't keep up with what was coming at me. And so I just decided I'm not going to have a Facebook page. I'm not going to have a website. I'm going to keep it at a pace that I can enjoy.
Yeah, well, that's why you started in the first place. You want to do what you can do without anybody telling you what to do and live your life. Yeah, that's why.
So don't look for me through Confluence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that approach.
You can reach out to me via email. That's B Ludwig LUDWIG 1708 @gmail. That's just, and if you want to reach out to me, just throw in the subject, heard you on the podcast, and I may ask you which one, but we'll find our way to a conversation for sure.
And I know that you will. I ask everybody on the show, hey, if someone wants to reach out, and not always is that such a great idea, because you can only handle so much. But, from what I know about you, Bill, you want to help people. And if someone out there is a business owner, or they're going through troubles, or they're trying to figure business life or whatever of life out, and they have an inkling that this conversation might lead them to talk to a person that can help, I think you should take advantage of
Yeah,
that.
it'd be
So
great.
he just gave you his information and you'd like to talk to him, and I think they should talk to
Sure.
you. So that'd be good. Bill, you're the best. And I've known you a long time, and yet one of my, through this show, I know more about people than I know about people in my life, because I don't always get deep into
Sure.
everyone's
Yeah.
biz. Yeah. But I know you as a real person. I don't think there's a better compliment I can give to anyone. I mean, everything that you say and everything that you do is truly you, and there's nothing on the other side of it. And that is a true compliment. And I thank you for being
Well,
that
I
person.
appreciate that.
We need people like that.
Yeah,
in
I
life.
appreciate that. And here's what I would say back. I think it's the only way to live a good life. It's the only way to live a good life is to be yourself. Whatever you're doing, just be yourself, and you're going to thrive. You're going to thrive. So thank you.
Be yourself, or at least who you think you are.
That's right.
Until you figure it out, right?
Take it till you make it.
That's Bill Ludwig, folks. Thank you, Bill, for being our guest on Purpose Under Pressure. I really do appreciate it. I wish you only the best in your continued, struggles against all the ailments. Bill's one of the great things, folks. I'll tell you about Bill. Bill, I've never told you this. Maybe I shouldn't, but you're still on the line, right? You're still listening. When you ask Bill, how you doing? Hey, Bill, how you doing? You know how when you walk into somebody and you say, hey, Joe, how you doing? And they say, fine, and you walk on. Bill will stop and tell you. Well, Bryan, since you asked, let me tell you what's going on. And I think it's awesome because it begins a conversation about life, real life. And it's like, yeah, if you want to know what's up with me, I'll tell you. And then what's up with you? And I just think that's so refreshing, and it's wonderful. And sometimes I really just want to ask you how's it going so I can get to the next place. But I'm thrilled that you stop me and make me be real and human. So thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
All right, man. That's Bill. That's Bill Ludwig. He's a senior pastor at Five Stones Community Church, and so much more than that, although that is enough. But he is amazing. And I thank him for being our guest on Purpose Under Pressure, brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group. Sellers are under pressure to perform, and Sandler helps you to succeed on purpose. You'll find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at bryanmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. We do this every week, and we will see you next time on Purpose